Street gospel, light of the temple. Sword swing, killer live from the ghetto. The hood messenger, let them know hell's close. Black burial, the devil in a black cloak.
Yo, what is up? Welcome to the Street Gospel Podcast. I'm your host, Dave One. And this is episode number... Yo, Cam, what episode is this? 55. So if you caught episode number 54, we had a pretty good guest on, man. The dude was super talented, really down to earth. Matter of fact, blowing up this week. If you've seen the Dove Awards, I don't know if it's aired yet, but he was performed at the Dove Awards this weekend. Stephen Malcolm. So great hip hop artist, good dude, father, husband. I really like that dude. Cam, you really like that dude too? Yeah. I mean, he was cool, right? But check that out. Always, please subscribe. If you follow us on the gram, follow us back, share it with somebody. If you're looking at us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you watch us at, please subscribe and share it. So we'd appreciate it. But let's get down to the business. We have a guest today, and I always play a little bit of music. So I thought I'd play. I don't think we ever had this type of music during the podcast. It's a little hardcore. So the guy I have today, he is a believer. He's a father, a husband, a brother in the Lord. He works for LA County. We got to get into that later. He has a passion for the church, and he's very organized. But if you welcome to the podcast, Mr. Marcel Muniz. What's up, brother?
What's going on, man?
Did I say your last name right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay, cool, man. I was worried about that, I kept saying, I'm probably going to say Munoz just out of it's more common than Muniz, right?
Yeah. You pronounce it pretty good. Or enunciate. I don't know.
Whatever, huh?
I feel like if someone gets it the I right, it's like, that's cool. I don't care how you say it after that.
Right on, man. So I know we've kind of been in the same realms a lot, but we never really I know a lot of your friends.
Yeah.
Raw Dog. Shout out to Raw Dog. Raw Dog's supposed to bring me some more Liquid Death.
Liquid Death, yeah.
I mean, bro, Raw Dog. Look, I've been waiting, bro. Anyways,
the show.
I know, man. But Raw Dog, your father-in-law, Dave, good friend of mine. I was just talking a couple weeks ago at a conference. I seen him. So we got kind of been in the same realm, know the same people, but we never really met or sat down. So this is the first time we kind of sat down, right?
Yeah.
We're on Instagram and stuff, but it's cool.
Yeah. I've been following you for a while. I mean, I saw I don't know how recent it was, but the interview with Pastor Adam.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Definitely good. Kind of up your lane there, right? It's kind of what he was talking about and things, and it is a very organized church, and I like that, and we can get into that. But it's been cool, man. I'm glad. I know you called me, and he didn't call me to be on the podcast, so don't get excited, everybody out there, right? You called me. We started talking about things. You started telling me about what you're doing, and then without even thinking about being on the podcast, but I thought your messaging and stuff, what you're doing, I thought it'd be a good thing to bring on the podcast, you know, and kind of talk about that. But before we get there, where does your story begin? Where did you grow up at?
Man, I grew up in, I guess, I don't know how far you want to go back, but as a kid, I grew up in Norwalk.
Okay.
And then, it's so funny because I grew up down the street from where my wife kind of grew up.
Off of Studebaker.
Yeah, off Studebaker.
Yeah.
Off, literally right down the street. It's so funny. And, I grew up there, and then we moved to La Habra, and then that's where I spent my teen years. And
so you moved up?
Yeah, to the OC, bro. Yeah. And
do you have a big family?
No, just my parents and me and my brother. That's it.
Okay, yeah. So just two brothers. I mean, that's got to be some havoc in the house, right?
Actually, dude, we're best friends.
Really?
Yeah. I can't even maybe on one hand count.
I mean, you two together was probably causing havoc in the house.
Oh yeah.
Two boys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
absolutely.
It's bad.
Yeah, I think my first memory with him was me or him throwing beans on the wall as like kids, babies. I don't know. It's like literally my first memory of him just throwing beans on the wall.
Are you guys close in age?
Yeah, he's 37 or yeah, he's 37, 35. Yeah.
Okay. So he's another one. Like we're in the same realm. He follows the podcast. I follow him.
Yeah.
Kind of like each other's stuff every now and then. It's like, but we never really like connected a lot. It's funny.
He might be a good one to get on. He's like he's starting to dabble with like movies and stuff.
That's dope.
I think he just did like he's done one, hasn't gotten released. I think it's like possibly heading to Netflix or something. And then
dope.
He was in another one that's like just got all these like awards at like these indie like I don't know what they're called, like showcases or whatever. So yeah,
that's tight.
He's up, dude. He's coming up with all this stuff, and he's just coming up with more movies and more movies, man. It's cool.
Dope. Did you guys grow up like kind of creative? Because I know you guys were in a band, doing movies. You kind of have a passion for organization in the church and different things, and you guys always been doing something within the church and kind of branching out from there.
Yeah. So like. Although we didn't grow up in the church, like I got connected with our current church like after high school and like early college. I think it just comes from like, I don't know, maybe like our history. Like my dad's like a designer, like an engineer. So I think he took like that creative design developer towards like that engineer, like more professional. And then me and my brother started with music, art, and then even just like now like orchestrating and being like architects of like processes,
right.
At least for me right now with like Ultra. So yeah, and it's just gone that way. And in our music days, that was like so much fun, bro.
Dude,
doing all the shows and stuff. You were in a band too, right?
I was in a band, dude. Shout out to 540, man. But I think you ran a venue before, and then I remember asking if we can use a venue, and then I remember them telling me, well, hit Marcel up, and I was like, I don't know this guy. He's a hardcore guy. We're kind of like rapcore. We're fading out. They're starting out. I was like, but you're really cool, man. Everybody was really dope. That was a dope spot too. Yeah. And but yeah, I loved being in the band. It was, I tell everybody, you know the feeling, to play a really good show where everything's on point, crowd's on point, the band's on point. There's no better feeling than that. I mean, it's just like, man, I there's times when I'm like, man, I miss that feeling. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's been a long time, but that was fun. There's
one video that we recorded. It's probably like the peak of Dynasty, Loud and Rowdy, Dangerous Minds music. It's called Stage Dive City. You could look it up on YouTube. I don't know if you want to link it, whatever. But like, you watch that video and it's just chaos, bro. Like stage dive after stage dive after stage dive. It was so much fun.
So yeah, so Dynasty, that was the name of the band, right?
That was the one, yeah.
Shout out to Dynasty. Was Ruben in that band?
Ruben was in the band too.
Okay, Ruben's a friend of both of ours, so I'm friends with Ruben, right? Cam knows Ruben, bass players. All bass players are just horrible. We changed our bass player like 3 times. Well,
oh no!
Shout out to Ray, but I don't know how many times he missed shows, or almost missed shows, or it was late to show. But bass players they have a whole, like, you guys have a whole thing, Cam. Like bass players are like in a world of their own. Like they're not really needed, but they are needed, and they know that. They know that, and they're worse than the lead guitar players sometimes.
You know what? I feel like to Ruben's credit, he was actually like a very committed bass player.
Really?
Yeah, like I think out of anybody, he probably had his stuff like most together. He had his gear in line, like, and I'm always like, hey, did you bring the cable? Like, can I borrow cable? Because like I think I was funny. Like, the person who just like forgot everything all the time.
Yeah, what did you do in the band?
In Dynasty, I play guitar. When we went on tour, I sang in place of my brother.
Dope.
That was a crazy experience.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It's been so long for us. I think it's been like, I would say like 13 years since we played, but it's funny because every once in a while somebody will remember, or somebody will be like, you were in a band? I was like, 540. It's still up there somewhere if you YouTube it.
How do you feel about it? Like, do you cringe a little bit, or is it like fond memories that you like talking about?
Yeah, I think when you get older. Okay, so I was in a rap group a long time ago, and I had the guy that I used to rap with on the show, Bobby, right?
Okay.
So to be honest, I was kind of like, I don't really want to talk about that. Like, that one was cringe because it was so long ago for me. I was like a teenager, you know what I mean? And I was like I'm not even close to that guy. Yeah. When I look at 540 Dave, you know, spiked hair, Papa Roach-ish kind of, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay. Then I see like POD still doing it.
Yeah.
Or like Rage. And that's kind of like the realm we were in. And I'm like, yeah, it was dope. And people still get, you know, every once in a while, some of my friends were like, that was dope, dude.
Yeah.
And so there was some good highs. I mean, the whiskey, playing the whiskey a few times. Nice. That was fun. Things like that. But yeah, there are some things maybe. and I see, you're in a different era. You're in the era of, you know, early stages of, you know, Facebook, Instagram, where people probably posted you guys like crazy. So when you see stuff like that, what do you think? Are you now that you're a father, husband, all this stuff?
I don't bring it up. Like, it's not like cringing, but it's not like the first thing that I bring up. I always think it's weird when people do that. Like, oh yeah, I has to be in a band. And
right.
Like,
okay. Yeah.
Yo, like check out these videos. It's like, those are like those are glory days, and that's all you can like.
Your Al Bundy, your Al Bundy days, right? All in the football team. Yeah, I you know, I don't do it like that. Even with the podcast, I'm kind of like, I don't really tell a lot of people. And the funny thing that, like, guys will be on TikTok or whatever and be like, "You have a podcast? I saw you, bro." And I'm like, "What the heck?" Or they'll leave little comments. I do safety as my day job, so they'll put on a comment like, "Safety Dave, what up?"
Safety Dave.
And they don't have their name on there, so I don't know who it is, right? So then I'll see them at one of the job sites, and they'll be like, "That was me that left the comment." I was like, "Why don't you leave a real name?" He's like, "I don't do that."
We don't do that. No.
It's so even with this, I don't like really, not because it's cringeworthy, but I'm not the guy that goes out there and says, "Hey, I got this going." You know? If they see it, then I'll be like, "Hey, man, check it out." But, you know, no, I don't think it's cringe. I think it's weird because, you know, as you get older, you think back. Now I think that I'm older. I think I just like, yeah, that was me. At one time, that's what I did. It was fun. Had a great time. I'm kind of happy. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm entering that stage. I think at one point I was like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Now I'm kind of just looking back. I'm like, yeah, that was fun. That was cool. I'm proud of what we did and what we accomplished and the time that we had. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's like one guy in our band that still that's the highlight of his whole life. No. I'm not going to say who it is. But
there's not like 4 you guys, so
there's 5.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you can probably minus it out. Yeah, exactly. There's other guys that moved on, but yeah, it was fun, man. Yeah. But bands, different things, and then how did you find the Lord? I mean, you said you came to the Lord when you were a youth, maybe late high school, early college days.
Yeah.
That is a difficult time to find the Lord. Mm-hmm. Like for a lot of young people, it's like that's the time when they want to explore. They don't want to go to church. But what kind of drew you in?
So I guess even before I went to to church and after high school or early college, my parents sent us to private school for like 2 years, and I guess that was the first time I ever got introduced to the Lord and like God and church and the whole thing of faith. And I went to like Catholic church, but like it was all just like the I didn't understand anything. They're all just mean, so I just didn't capture anything. But then I remember being there at like some camp we went to, and I said like the sinner's prayer at one point, and then after that, like kind of just fell off. Didn't really think twice about it. You know, when we moved to La Habra, went to high school and all that stuff. It kind of had like a sense of it. But it wasn't until after I think senior year I got connected. We started the band, and then we got connected with some people who were Christians, and they were doing hardcore as well. And they were part of the church in Whittier, which I think is still there. It's called House of Grace. I think so, Pastor Ralph, great guy, and the Delatorre family, awesome family. And so they asked me if I wanted to participate in their band and like sing or whatever. And so I started going to the practices, but then eventually started going to church. And man, like that's when like just God encountered me big time. Like, you know, I would just like be at the altar. I'm just like crying, and I'm like, I don't even know why. And it has a lot to do with just like how I grew up. My family was just like a mess, like verbal, physical abuse in the house, and just alcoholics and stuff like that. Just all of the above, you know, just crazy.
So you were kind of searching for something a little different. Yeah, that was a draw for you.
Not even that I even knew that I was searching for it. Right. I think what was
normal?
Yeah, or I guess what caused me to even like go there was that they just wanted to like have me sing in their band. Right?
Be a part of something.
Yeah, and so I was like, all right, that's cool. Is that a church? Yeah, I guess that's cool. And then like little by little, I was just like, dude, I vibe this, you know. And then after that, I got connected with Praise Chapel, and I started going to Praise Chapel, and then the rest, I guess, is history. And then
That's dope, man.
yeah.
Were you musically inclined?
Yeah, I taught myself. You know, my parents invested in. I guess even before we did guitar stuff, they did the accordion. I think every Hispanic goes to like accordion lessons.
I mean, I could kind of see you as that mariachi at the restaurant. You know what I mean? Pulling up to the table and be like, "Hey, can we do your song for $5?"
Yeah,
yeah, you look like that guy.
I think my mom always wanted us to be in like some like music, not for the sake of the music, but for like how it like helps you, I guess mentally or like school wise or whatever. And like we ended up picking hardcore. The most like destructive anti-growth.
Like, why?
Thing. Yeah.
Why? Classical. There's so many genres, and you pick hardcore.
I know exactly. And
what is hardcore, dude? What is it? If you could describe it. I mean, I always have like okay, this is my description of hardcore.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be the old guy here. Sure. So when hardcore came on the scene, I was kind of like, I don't get it, because it was somewhere in between like real heavy, I would say metal. And then like punk.
Yeah.
Is that that's a good description?
Sometimes that's the best description. Yeah. Like most people aren't going to get it.
Yeah. I think if you kind of, I guess, melt those two together, and then it's kind of like hardcore.
It's such a, I mean, not, I guess for lack of better words and to sound like cliche, it really is like an underground type of thing. You have to like go to Korn, go to Limp Bizkit, go to POD, and then go to what would be like the next step after that? System of a Down.
Yeah.
And then you just start going, like, as you start listening to these bands, and then you just start like knowing more about like all these other bands and then you hear about, someone opened up for this band, and then like little by little, like you just start like pulling on this thread, and you end up at Terror. You end up at like what's that one band? Righteous Jams, or I don't know, just whatever. And
like Lamb of God.
No, like
that's deeper than that?
Yeah, that's more like, I feel like that's more like heavy metal.
That's more heavy metal, right? I guess you're right. I guess you're right.
So that's kind of how it went.
I thought hardcore would be more leaning to like punk, right? Because it's a little faster, right? And it's more. I feel it's like more kick and snare, like sometimes it gets that little fat. I guess the tempo is faster.
I on the music side, I wouldn't be able to say like what is and what's not. I think there's a lot of bands like even like like Trapped in Her Eyes. I'm so out of it. Those like that's my reference
Your
point.
boy Raw's gonna be mad, dude.
Yeah, these bands that I'm talking about like are probably, I don't even know if they're still playing. There's like Trapped in Her Eyes. There's another one. Someone just sent me one. And
they're probably like you, a dad, husband, county worker now.
Yeah. And a lot of the new ones right now, they're just kind of like, they're not sticking to like what hardcore is, like a circle pit, 2-set, breakdown. They're just doing whatever. That's like their foundation, and they're just like building on it, and it's really cool.
Just growing.
Yeah.
Yes, I think music's like that all around, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's this, I saw this this Christian hip-hop kid, and then he had like a song, and it was, I want to say it was like more like a pop punk type of song, and he rapped over it, and I thought it was cool, but it was different, right? It was, I mean, it's not like Lil Nas X or something, Cowboys and whatever else.
Yeah, that song is actually pretty fire, dude. I cannot like vibe what he's about, but some of the music that he puts out is just like, dude, that's a sick beat.
You gotta give love where love is.
Yeah, dude, credit where credit's due.
Wherever it's due. But yeah, music's a trip. I think music, though, I mean, I made Cam, play the bass. I mean, I didn't make him play the bass. He picked the bass, but I go, what do you want to play? He goes, I want to play the bass.
Nice.
And I always thought like music, because I grew up around music. I was horrible at instruments, but my parents would always have music playing in the house. My dad had music, so I was music inclined. I think the kids are musically inclined as far as knowing good music and listening to all genres of music. And there is something about it. I think your mom is right. There is something about that. It stimulates your mind. It opens you up to more. Music will open you up to a whole bunch of different cultures, right?
Yeah.
You listen to a nice country song or old 70s rock, and then you listen to a hip hop song, and then there's also so many genres within there, and you kind of like broadened your spectrum a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that was a good deal for you, man.
Heck yeah.
So you go to church, and how did you end up with a wife and kids, man?
Man.
Fell in love?
Yeah, me and my wife, it's so funny because, like, when I got invited to go to Praise Chapel, she was actually the first person I met. So I got invited by another girl, but the person who, like, welcomed me and said, hi, this is the church, it was her.
Wow.
So it's so funny. And then I was friends with her brothers. She's got 2 brothers, friends with them for a really long time. Mike was in our band, hung out with Diga, like, all the time.
So Diga was on our show.
Yeah,
early
I saw
on.
that one. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. It's not that he doesn't belong here, but it's somewhat uncharacteristic.
Very uncharacteristic, right? And people were like super surprised. I got so many messages and texts like, "What?" That was
cool.
Like, what the heck? And I was like, "Hey, he came." Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I asked him, and he said right off the bat, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I was like, "Cool." So he came, and he was the one. He was the one. I think it was like. We were like, is there anything off the table? He's like, well, let's not get... At the time, politics was super high, right? Sure. So he's like, let's not talk about politics. We talk about too much. I go, no way. We're not talking about politics. I didn't want to get into it either. Yeah. And he's like, all right, cool. Yeah. So we talked about it. And then it was...
You get any backlash from anybody online?
Well, yeah. I mean...
false prophet.
Yeah, false prophet. You know, I don't know about this guy. And you know what's funny is that during... I know we're kind of going off base, but he's your relative.
Sure.
What's funny about that is I just know Diga is Diga, right? I don't, all the other stuff, like, it's cool. I like where he's gone and what he has and what the Lord has built in his ministry. But, like, I just know him as Diga. Like, I knew him since he was a little kid. Like, but I didn't treat him like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think I just look at people the way they treat me.
Yeah. And...
So then we got like a lot of people were like, why'd you have that guy on? Or do you know about this guy? And I'm like, well, he's my friend.
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to have him on. And then what's crazy is that I asked him a question and it kind of was like spot on to before people started, saying, why'd you have him on and stuff. It was kind of spot on what he said. During the live that he was on, people started asking him, what about this preacher? What about so-and-so? What about so-and-so? What do you think about so-and-so? And he says, I don't, God bless them.
Yeah.
God bless their ministry. I pray that God will speak to them. And I asked him about that. I go, you said that during the live, and I just happened to be watching it. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was pretty like profound that you said that, and he goes, yeah, well, who am I to judge these guys? Yeah. And I'm not in that, I'm not in that atmosphere of trying to like, oh, we're going to battle this guy and we're going to do this, and there's a lot of shows out there that do that, right? Yeah. Every, thing in the church is, it's got to be brought up, and torn down. And I was like, nah, I'm not like that either. So we really connected on that. And I take him as face value. I mean, he's just my friend. I know your guys' family. I mean, I know where he comes from. It's just like, I'm sure people don't like a lot of things that I do, but I hope they judge me on how I treat them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I mean, that's the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I don't know, add on to that, like, just like the quickness of him to be like, yeah, I'll do it. Like that's, I know people see him on TV or not TV online, and they'll see him on his show that he does, and like the recaps, and it almost seems like that people think he's bigger than life, right? But bro, he's like so chill.
Yeah,
he's
like very so chill.
Like genuine. And I'm not saying just because my brother, and I don't know if he's ever gonna watch this, but like the guy.
Oh, he subscribes. He contributes to us every month and everything. No, I'm just kidding.
He's got the notification. Yeah. But like, man, the guy. I remember just kids like in our youth group dealing with depression, suicidal, like just hardcore, and him calling me at 3 a.m. and saying, "Hey, they just called me. I'm going to go over there and meet with them." Like, no one, he doesn't owe anybody anything, right? And that's just like who he is.
Yeah.
And so I know that people can look at like big ministries and like, and throw whatever stones that they want, but like, dude, the guy's cool, bro.
Yeah, I think he has a very, very strong passion.
Yeah.
And it's, you could see it. I mean, he knows his word. There's been times I've texted him, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And he gets back to me all the time. He may not give me anything immediately, he might be busy, but he always gets back to me and, hey, brother, what's up, man? And he calls me back and he answers a question. And it's funny because, you know, I remember one time me and him got into it a little bit because he was trying to give a guy advice on marriage. And I was like, you're not married, dude. Like, you're just like 21 years old. Don't listen to this guy about marriage. Come over here.
Yeah.
And so, but he's very knowledgeable in what he knows. And I mean, I appreciate that. I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
go. So you have Ultra. Did I say that?
Ultra, yeah.
And-
Throws
ahead.
people off because of the V.
Yeah, the V. But it's like Ruka, right?
Yes, exactly.
Boom.
Yeah.
Right, my favorite brand.
Dude, I love that brand.
Yeah.
Even today, like their shirts are so soft, bro.
They're the best, right? That's all I buy.
And like it's weird because like their sizing too is just, I don't know, it's just like a perfect dad shirt.
I buy those all the time. I have a little bit of connection over there at Ruka. Thanks. I'm not going to tell you who it is.
Nice.
Thanks to my boy out there. He knows who he is, but he
Nice.
hooks me up.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, but okay. So going back to Ultra,
yeah.
with the V.
Yeah. So I guess the V is a throwback to, I guess, like the history of the term ultra.
Okay.
It's tied back to the term plus ultra. Spain back in the day before they quote unquote discovered the Americas, like they had a saying inscribed on some pillars on the peninsula of Gibraltar or something like that, and it said "non terre plus ultra," which was basically telling everybody this is the edge of like the known world. Non terre plus ultra means no land further beyond, right? And so they're saying that's it. Like, don't even think of dreaming what's out there or going beyond. This is it, right? Until they discovered it, and then they reformed that to just plus ultra, which means go beyond.
Wow.
Yeah, so I actually got that from a video game from Apex. One of the guys says he says non terre plus ultra, and I just was like, dude, what the heck is that, right? And then I looked it up, and it just, man, that hit me hard. I was like, dude,
That's dope.
right?
I mean, not too many kids would have probably looked that up, right? They're just like, yeah, whatever that means. Great.
Yeah, and there's another anime. I think it's called
Cam might know.
My Hero Academia, I think. And then the guy goes like, and he says plus ultra, yeah.
That's dope.
You just go beyond. But I didn't do it because of that. Like, that's super trendy right now. I didn't do it because of that.
Yeah, you're way before the trend.
Oh yeah, big time.
So, and it's a business
Yes.
/ ministry / let me help you out /
Yeah.
So this, okay. So what is it exactly
So it's essentially
for everybody out there? I kind of know what it is.
Yeah.
And we've talked over this.
my main focus, or I guess if you would say like my main client would be churches, would be leaders, pastors in churches, right? And it's really just to offer whatever organizational support that I can. Consulting, I guess, it's just church consulting,
Right.
ministry consulting, organizational consulting. So whether if that's like project management, change management, Lean Six Sigma stuff, or even like Kaizen, it's just all this fancy terminology for like eliminating waste, making things better, process improvement. And that's essentially what it is. Like my history with LA County is I used to be part of the project management office in DPSS. Great experience. Awesome, phenomenal experience actually. Like I learned how to all of these different like tools, like process design on like Visio, and I got exposed to that world and I ate it up. Project management experience, the lean training. It was great. Right now I'm doing the Google project management certification. So dude, I love that world. Like, you just talk about it for days.
Right.
And so it's really just taking that idea, those concepts, those principles, and applying them to a space that like totally needs it.
So you're like right up that alley because you've came into the church and worked within the youth.
Yeah.
You've pastored a church for a little while, right? You've been in different ministries within the church. You met your wife in the church.
Yeah.
Have a family in the church. So you kind of been in a band.
Yeah.
That played at a lot of churches, played everywhere, but played at a lot of churches too. So you kind of seen a lot of aspects of probably all the aspects of the church, really, right?
Yeah.
From starting a church, which is very difficult, right? And seeing all that and different things. And then I like when people use skills they get at their job. A lot of people like knock skills they learn at work and don't ever try to apply them at church. And I'm kind of like you. Like I'm in the management side at church, and we do a lot of things. And then I'm always like, when church isn't, the church is organized, the one I go to now, but when church wasn't always organized, I had a hard time with that.
Oh yeah.
My wife, teacher for years, she's always been like, why isn't this organized? Like this can be better.
Yeah. And
so I can see how like you have a passion for that, taking what you learn in your career and kind of saying, why can't the church operate kind of more like this, more organized?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think the church is not organized?
I think just because like, if you're talking about like discipleship, like the DIY discipleship in the sense of like, anybody can be a pastor.
Right.
I think people are being groomed and developed and built up to be a pastor, to be an awesome preacher, to be a connector of people, a builder of faith, an encourager, which is great. Like your fivefold ministry, right? You're not going to be every single one.
Right.
And I think that's great. And I don't fault any pastor or any church leader or any who's like also not a pro at like starting podcasts, also not a pro at finances, also not a pro at, you name it, project management, organization, being an administrator, because that's not what they were like trained to do.
Right.
So I think the focus, like let's say in your faithful church that is saying like, hey, we want you to be a pastor, and here are the requirements to be a pastor. You might not have like that element in there. Just like up until recently, people aren't saying like, oh, you also need to have like an online presence, right? Like, and not like, I feel like going forward, like that's now going to be like, not mandatory, not mandatory, but like somewhat essential, right? So I think pastors focus on the scope that they're able to focus on. I mean, they're only one person, right? And sometimes they don't have like the background and experience that like other people have, like project management and change management stuff. So they're only bringing what they know, and that I don't think you can fault people for that, right?
Yeah. I was telling Cam, it's funny you said that. I was talking to Cam. I did my quarterly sushi dinner with Cam.
Nice,
my treat, and we have the father son talk, right?
Sick.
So
when you getting married?
When are you leaving? You put in those other applications this week. You're graduating pretty soon, so son, it's time for you to move on. No, I'm just kidding. He's like, why me? But his sister lives here and she's older than him. But anyways, we were talking about that, and he was telling me some struggles, just with sometimes with leadership at church. And I told him kind of what you said right now. It's not the fault of the leader there. They're good at what they do. Yeah. Right? So they might be good at audio video, or they might be good in a good teacher or a good preacher. Yeah. But if they have some talent. Yeah. But just because you have talent doesn't mean you have good leadership skills. Right. Is that true?
I mean, I think so. I think all that stuff is you have to be intentional about growth, leadership, support of your people. I think the truth is about, like, how they say about jobs, people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. Like, I think that applies to church too. And that's so good. It's unfortunate. Like, people are gonna, it might be the greatest job, but if your manager is just like doesn't know what they're doing, it's like, okay, you could pay me all the money in the world, I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to subject myself to this. Right. So I think, people have the responsibility to develop themselves, but sometimes, man, they just don't know how to, because almost like the echo chamber of success is be faithful in the small, be faithful in the little, like obey your leaders, which is biblical, right?
Yeah.
So this is where it becomes difficult, because it's like that is so biblical, right? And it's not like you're gonna go in here, like, change management isn't to go in here and start pointing fingers at people, which I've done, and I've made those mistakes.
I think we all have.
We got to change, and you're wrong, and you're wrong. It's like, okay, that's not
very
going to change anything.
It was very difficult for me to tell Cam, like, I just wanted to be like, no, those people are wrong, and they need to be better leaders. But inside, I'm like, well, I know better.
Yeah.
It's not their fault all the time, just because they need to develop those skills. And I'm a manager. You're a manager, right? And I'm sure we probably made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
When they gave us that title, and we're just kind of learning.
Yeah.
For
me, if it goes back to like what I think is like organizational. Organization is biblical. It's like a form of stewardship. Is with like Moses. I think it's like the first example in the Bible where it's like you have a consultant, Moses' father-in-law Jethro, come up to Moses. He sees him sun up to sundown, answering everybody's questions, dealing with everybody's problems. And the Bible says that he's like up to his limit. He's just frustrated. I think he even says like, just kill me. It's like, imagine ministry being that difficult.
And it could be.
And literally stuck. It's stuck in the mud, bro. Like, you're not going anywhere. You're not advancing. Nothing's happening.
Right.
This is that whole idea behind Ultra. Right. And so Jethro comes in and he's like, dude, what you're doing is bad. You're going to wear yourself out, and you're going to wear out the people.
Right.
And so to me, that is like the solution. A lot of times people, and for better or for worse, it is what it is. Sometimes our ecosystems are kind of closed off, right? And we're in like this little like feedback loop, closed feedback loop.
Yeah.
And it's not until you get someone else to come in and be like, you run your people like that?
Yeah.
Or you run your ministry like that? It's not good for you, and it's not good for your people.
Nobody wants to hear that, though, right?
No.
I mean, it's tough to really. It's even tough amongst your friends.
Yeah.
To say, hey, just tell me the truth.
Yeah.
Because we don't really want to hurt. We don't want to hurt our friends' feelings, or on the vice versa. We don't want to hear that stuff, so we don't want to ask.
Yeah.
But it is tough. I think a little bit what you said earlier. I like that, because I think, even the word says, a wise man has many advisors. Like, he has a lot of people that are speaking into his life, and just giving him advice. I think the biggest thing with the church is getting other people to speak into your life, for asking for help, for getting that. And then realizing too that what you're not good at, realize that you're not good at it.
Yeah.
And find somebody on the team that's good at that.
Yeah, definitely.
And let them excel in that. I think a lot of pastors have a hard time with saying, like, I suck at that.
Yeah.
But this guy is very good at that.
I feel like you would take a massive weight off your shoulder and saying, I don't have to be perfect to everybody and almost like untouchable,
right?
In a sense of like, I know best for everybody, right? I think who was it? Steve Jobs, who said something about like he hires people smarter than him,
right?
To do the jobs that he needs them to do and to advance things, right? I don't know the quote, but it's something like that, right?
And it's funny because like I'm not saying that we do it for that, but who got all the glory in the end? Steve Jobs,
bro.
So the smart guy is the guy who knows how to put the right people in the right places where they're going to excel.
Oh yeah.
And I think like in the church sometimes we don't do that for whatever reason, and there's a whole bunch of reasons, but I think in the workplace, like, I'm cool with like, hey, that guy's good at that. So let's let him do it. Yeah. Or hey, you do this and I'll do that. Because I feel I'm stronger on this part. Let me do this part. And I think in the church, we, for whatever reason, we don't always work that way.
Yeah, I think I'm reading the book right now, the classic From Good to Great. I think it's Jim Collins. I think the author. He talks about that. He talks about how like one of the qualities of a company that goes from good to great is that they put it's who before the what. So instead of trying to create like this grand vision, they find out like the best people to put in place, and the best people are going to create like the best vision. And it's like I know it's hard like when you're starting a church, right? And you got so and so from who just got out of prison, maybe, and definitely needs the Lord.
He's
right?
the usher.
He's the usher. Right? Like
The
that's
head
the
usher.
story sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
You know, and I think like we could talk about these ideas, and then the reality is like I've been there, right? And the reality is you look around, it's like, okay, well, I'll keep that in mind for the next like 10 years when I'm able to do that. But I think it's something like a good idea to like make sure to like when you work towards that, like
It takes time.
yeah. And I think people can, or even for me, I felt like I might have gotten ahead of myself when I'm thinking about ministry and like what I'm trying to accomplish. And so you kind of get in this trap of like, oh, I need to be somewhere. So I need you to do this because I'm trying to get here. Right. So instead of being like, okay, like I think working through like who God brings and like developing their talents, their giftings and what God has called them to do. And at the same time, like learning how to balance the need, right? Because I think in the startup church, the church plant, in some groups, it's like just fill the need, and it causes people to like do things that they don't really like to do,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And so I think like that
They get burned out.
yeah, and they get burned out, and things people could get like really bitter about. Like, dude, I feel like you're just like literally just milking me.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the
Problem
day,
work, yeah.
it's a lot. I've had to tell Cam, hey man, if you're getting burned out, take a break.
Yeah.
Because because you get burned out and then you become bitter.
Yeah.
And then that's not what we want. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times we think like if I take a break, then God's going to punish me in the church or something like that. Or they're never going to let me do anything ever again. And I gotta do my time in here if I want to go here.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think sometimes you get really burned out, and in a smaller church, it's a lot more work.
Yeah.
You have a lot less people, and you got to do more things, and you got to depend on individuals a little bit more.
It's tough, man. Like, and again, I was like when we were doing church planning in Pasadena, I remember being there, and I had this guy come, and he was just like, he played worship, he sang a little bit, and I was like, this is great, totally there to fill the need. I'm like, awesome. Like, I suck at singing, and I'm sometimes like singing, I'm just like, this is the worst, right? So it was cool having him there, and I just remember thinking like, this is great. Okay, now like another piece to the building block, we can move forward to whatever next level of like worship or whatever. And then he tells me, yo, I'm gonna move to Colorado, and I was like, why, dude? Like, you just got here. I remember having like a decision to make within me to be like, do I just pull the pastor card and say, no, dude, God's called you to be here. You need to be here, right? And then I just felt like, dude, that's wrong. Like, I can't do that. Like, who am I to say that?
Yeah.
I think, so then I remember telling him, like, dude, like, at least can we pray about it? Can we fast about it? Maybe the Lord will speak to you.
Yeah.
And then he decided, I'm going to go. And I was like, all right. And then I think on one Sunday we planned on just blessing him, giving some money and giving him a card and honoring him before everybody for serving and helping. Yeah. And that's what was going to happen. I had the card ready to go. That's then he goes, oh, I'm not leaving. And I was like, all right, well, here's the money, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just sometimes think that like that's difficult for us, right? As leaders,
Right.
or I'm not pastoring anymore, but
Even as a new pastor.
yeah,
As a new leader.
I think it can
role.
be difficult, right? When we're talking about organization and learning how to be a better leader, to like pursue what you feel God has put on you for vision for your church, right, as a whole, but then still like tune into the needs of the people. Maybe their particular calling isn't like specifically designed to like line up with yours.
Right.
Do we just write them off and like, negate their purpose? Who knows? It might have been wrong for him to go, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm the right person to, or maybe I'm not the right, I'm not in the right position to say like, hey, that's wrong. God told me that's wrong.
I had a pastor one time say, I forgot who it was, but they kind of said that in the early stages, it was very difficult, and they would battle with, do I tell them to stay, or do I tell them to go, or what's going on? They be hurt? They left for some sort of reason.
Yeah.
And they kind of were taking people in, and who stood, and who moved on. And they said those people were kind of like practice for the next people.
Sure.
So we can get better. Not that those people were anything less, but instead of getting feelings and their feelings hurt and feeling like, like, man, this is a ripoff. Like, we're like, no, they're not our people.
Yeah.
They're God's people.
Yeah.
Maybe I helped that journey to the next step. And
Absolutely.
Maybe they're doing something greater now.
Yeah.
But we helped a little bit in that foundation.
I think of it like in the two mindsets, the growth mindset or the abundance mindset and the scarcity mindset. I feel like when people like try to do that, I remember during COVID, I remember seeing, I forgot who it was, but I remember seeing this online where people are like, you need to tune into your church's YouTube or whatever, like live stream. Like now that people have a chance to go out, what you're using to get people to tune into your stuff is like force.
Yeah.
Bro, like, well, what if like, okay, if you're literally matching up your preaching, your quality versus other people's preaching and quality of not only the preaching, but also the camera stuff. And what you're going to use is you have to tune in. You have to be faithful to where God's called you. It's like, dude, is this, and is this even the right time to like try to pull that card? I bet like, I know people struggle through that big time.
It was bad. It was funny that you said that because I think one day we were sitting here, we were watching online, and Melissa wanted to hear somebody else preach. So she was watching another church. She's, so-and-so's preaching over here. So she's on her phone. I have the TV on. And I'm watching another church service, and I'm like, wow, we're basically church hopping on our couch. So we were going to different ones. Like last week we watched some other church.
Yeah.
But it was funny. But yeah, it was.
But it's like okay, I feel like it's like the tighter, like you white knuckle the people into feeling like they're the only people that are out there that need to be saved.
Right.
I feel like you end up losing it.
Yeah, it's kind of, and I don't mean pastors think like this, but they are shepherds and there is sheep, and it's kind of like with our kids, right? Like I can't keep the reins on Cam so tight or on my daughter Cash so tight, like where I don't let them roam a little bit, right? And then if you keep it so tight, it's like those kids that they're choked down. As soon as they turn 18, they just wild out because you've been noose has been so tight around their neck, and you kind of they're ultimately you have to release those people. I mean, I remember talking to my wife, and we were like, the kids are older now. Like, they're released. We did our job. We release them to God, and sometimes it's like church folks and leadership gets a little like, these are my people, but ultimately they're not. They're God's people, and
I think it, on the same in the same area. I think it just takes some time to like getting exposed to other people who are in that growth mindset.
Yeah.
Right. And like I just finished this book, The Blessed Church by Pastor Robert Morris of Gateway.
Okay,
bro, like his story of how he started his church is phenomenal. And like the way he structures his church and how he deals with leadership, how he puts people in place, how he handles and how he thinks about feeding sheep. And I think at one point he almost had like this attitude of like, I'm not going to apologize for having a better meal for sheep than you do. Like I think in one of the things he was talking about how like one guy barely spent any time on his word, and he was talking about how much like time he spent. He's like, well, duh, no wonder you're losing people and people are coming over here. And he's like, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but it almost seemed like he was saying, I'm not going to apologize for that.
Yeah. No.
And I think people on the other side can get kind of frustrated, like, all these people are not faithful, they're not loyal. But it's like, bro, I don't go to like rallies.
Yeah.
Because like there's an issue of loyalty, because like, dude, the quality is just bad.
I mean, the fries are pretty fire though.
Okay,
dude.
yeah. But I also
every once in a while.
I also don't,
but
like
not the burgers.
Like
Sorry.
the one in Norwalk, or I think there's one in HP area,
right there on State.
I also
Florence.
don't like going in there and feeling like I'm unsafe.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I just would rather not, man. And so like, I don't know, maybe take a look at that. But I think it really takes time, like getting exposed to other minds, bigger minds,
right,
than where you're at. And I think that whole idea of organization, growing in leadership, taking your stuff like to another level.
Right.
I feel like it always needs a third party, another set of eyes to help.
I think so too. I think it's funny that you make that analogy of rallies, because I always tell people, like, people still go, like, I was comparing. I was talking to a friend about brands, and he was like, I don't know why they like this brand or like that brand, And I said, look, you can go to a corner and there can be an In-N-Out, a Rallies, and like a Farmer Boys. And they'll probably all have people at each one of them. And you can be sitting at In-N-Out, right? And you can be like, why is that guy at Rallies?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they go, with that said, is there a church for everyone? Right? Because, and do you agree that not every, this is just my thinking, you don't have to agree, but that every church doesn't have to be the same.
I agree.
It could be a little different. But every one of those restaurants, Rallies, In-N-Out, has some sort of system.
Yeah.
Some sort of organization, right? There's an organization that they do. There's a certain, Kem has been working food service for a minute while he's going to school, and he'll tell you, very organized. Probably one of the best organized places, right? Chick-fil-A.
We're Chick-fil-A.
Right? So there's an organization there of how they run things. But Cam will tell you, people still go to Cane's, or people still go to Dave's Hot Chicken, or people still go to McDonald's for you know,
the microplastics,
wings, right? And all that good stuff, right? But there is an organization and there's a system.
Yeah.
But there's a certain place for everybody. But the organization part has to be there, right?
Yeah.
It has to be. Why is that so important?
I remember, I don't know who is to credit for the saying that we don't rise to our aspirations, but we fall to our systems or discipline. And that's so true. Like, we can want to go places and have these ideas of growth and development and all of this stuff, but it all comes down to our processes. I think the guy, his name is Edward Deming. He says most of the time, when things are falling apart, it's not the people, it's the process, right? And just it's 100%. What I always think it's interesting that when God led the people out of Egypt, that he ended up he had to give them an outline, a syllabus on what the expectations are. Dude, these are the expectations. And I think it's so funny. The first thing Moses does, he breaks them. Right. And so there's so much in that, right? God saying, this is how you should live here. These are the step by step. And then what's so crazy is that even with bad leadership, God will still continue to give grace and give him another set, right?
Yeah.
Let's practice. Let's just keep going. Let's keep rolling the dice here. I think that is that's it. It all boils down to that. You could have the greatest preacher, but if he's an extreme micromanager, he's going to shoot himself in the foot.
Or vice versa, unorganized, no processes, no systems. I like what you said about expectation. I think, me and my wife teach marriage classes. And the first thing we do in our first class is we have a section on expectations. And we run down what to expect from the class, what do we expect of them, how long the class will be each week, the number of classes, and why it's important for them to come.
That's awesome.
And we just lay it out for them. And I always feel it, and it's the middle section of the first class, right? And so we talk about a few things. We tell them about ourselves. They introduce themselves. And then we get to that portion. And after that portion, everybody's kind of okay,
I can do this.
Yeah, I know what to expect.
Yeah,
I know what's expected of me. I know this is going to end at 11 a.m. and we'll be out of here. And great.
Yeah.
And I always feel that that little bit of organization is a good starting point for that class. And if you stick to that, in which we do, people kind of they like that. They like to have that system.
I think what's so crazy about organization is that usually they're so tiny. The changes are so small.
Yeah.
And they have great payoff. One of the services that I offer is org charts. For any church which I find, which is crazy. A lot of churches don't have an org chart of who does what.
Okay, yeah.
And where do I belong in this whole thing? Who do I report to? If I have a question, something's over my head, who's the final decision maker? Should this person be cutting all the way over here and butting their nose into my
the basics, right?
Bro, most churches don't even have an org chart. It's crazy. I'm here to help you guys if you guys want. But I think that, dude, I was talking about it the other day. If you have all your info, it'll take 2 hours. But then instead of having to, every single time something comes up, who's in charge of this? Who's in charge of this? Let's go find out who's supposed to be doing this.
Right.
And reinventing the wheel.
Frustrating.
Dude, frustration to the max.
Right.
Dude, that took like 2 hours of work, and it's just paying off big time.
Yeah.
Creating those expectations ahead of time pays off like tremendously down the line.
Because if you create the chart, the flow chart, whatever you want to call it, and it answers those questions, you're saving everybody so much time, because it's like, and then you're establishing it like, that's not what the flow chart said.
Exactly.
Like, are we following the flow chart? And you can always point to that chart and say, this is what we agreed on.
Yeah.
This is how we run things here. And then it doesn't get blamed on Marcel for wanting to be a shot caller. It's like, nope, the flow chart says it. This is what we talked about. We're sticking to the plan. I think it's a plan.
Yeah.
It's a plan set out. I think those are huge. And it's funny because you use those all the time at work for everything, right? We have like pre-task plans. This is who's doing what. This is what we need. This is what could happen if it doesn't go right.
Some risk management.
Yeah. And it's all these things, it's the task, it's the risk, and it's how to remediate that risk, you know.
The scope, what's in scope, where you're going to get paid for, where you're not going to get paid for.
Who's doing what, and we laid it out, and we meet, and and
change logs. Do you have a change log? Yeah. If someone goes, how are we going to change it, and we're going to document that.
It's a living document. It can change as we proceed. If something comes up and it's unforeseen, hey, put it down. We'll gather up again. We'll meet again. This is what we're gonna do because this happened.
Yeah.
Or
get approval from stakeholders or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like it flows really well within the church. We don't have that, and I think probably yourself for sure, me for sure, my wife. It's just anybody that's organized gets this like. I just get anxiety when things are not organized. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
and I almost have to ask God to forgive me because I start getting in the flesh, right? Because I get so frustrated.
Bro.
But I'm thinking in my head like, this process could have been so much easier, and I think people just, like you said, I think they think it's a lot of work, but it's not. Initially, and if you follow it, it saves you a lot more time in the end. I wanted to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Elevate Ministries. Elevate Ministries is an authentic, passionate, and innovative church in the heart of Orange County, California. They strive to make their services welcoming and encouraging by intentionally engaging you in all senses to stimulate a spiritual hunger. If you're looking for a great church that's on a mission to change the world one person at a time, I encourage you to check them out at www.elevateministries.com and on Instagram at Elevate Ministries. In the end.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is discipline, right? So just because you create an org chart, which I've experienced before, you create an org chart, sometimes the people who are multi-laners, just like go whatever, will literally go straight to the top and be like, oh, well, I know you said, and everybody agreed we were doing this, but I talked to so-and-so, and we're doing this now.
That's a big one.
It takes a while for them to kind of like fall in line with what everybody's doing. So it's a lot of discipline for sure.
I think that's a huge one. I think that would solve like 65-75% of the problems in church if you had who's in charge of what and who has the final say.
Yeah.
And then not jumping over somebody else. I mean, I'm huge on that at work. If I have a problem with a guy in the field, I go to his foreman. I go to the guy first.
Yeah.
He doesn't fix it, or I feel it's a bigger problem, I go to the foreman.
Yeah.
If that doesn't get fixed, then I'll take it to the superintendent. So I give the guy in the field the chance to fix it.
Yeah.
The foreman, I give him the heads up. If it continues, then I'm going to the super. The foreman gets mad at me, and I said, "Hey, bro, I gave you the opportunity to fix it."
Yeah.
And then the foreman gets mad at the worker, and the worker's like, Dave, you told me, man, what happened? We thought we were boys. I said, yeah, I told you.
Yeah.
You didn't fix it. So I went to the foreman, I went to the super. Now, if I got to go to the general superintendent, then that'll be a big problem. And he lays a smackdown on everybody. And then everybody gets mad. And I'm like, and I tell the guys, I don't just jump to the general superintendent, unless it's something like off the wall, crazy, unsafe, whatever.
Yeah.
But it kind of like did the chain of command thing. In church, like, is notorious sometimes for just going straight to the pastor, and then the pastor's like, yeah, sure.
I mean, I guess before I jump on, can you remind me about Acts? I think it was Peter and the apostles in the book of Acts. Can you remind me of that in a second? Because I want to say something else really quick.
Okay.
Shoot, I forgot the other thing. Dang it. So I'll just talk about this. So basically, I think about it in terms of like, Like, it's not helpful for anybody when you're disorganized. It's not helpful for the pastor. Again, back to Moses thing. Like, everything's disorganized and everybody's just all over the place. Like, everybody burns out, right? And so an org chart says this person's responsible for this. We're delegating responsibility. We're entrusting people to do this, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. The Book of Acts with Peter and the apostles, he's like, dude, we can't handle this issue with the distribution of the food with these widows. This is a mad issue.
They have enough guys.
Yeah, or whatever it is. I think they were saying they're holding it back, and these people aren't getting it. The Hellenists. I might be butchering it, but he's saying this is an issue. We're going to address it, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, okay, so let's figure out. What's so awesome, and this is like total. This is total management. It goes, what are the standards? We need 7 men. 7. That's 1 men who are filled with the Holy Spirit, have a good rapport, and have good wisdom. This is like setting the job criteria, right? And saying, like, these are the expectations, and this is the problem that they're trying to solve. And we need 7. We need to pick. Let's get them in. Let's get them on board so that we could go ahead and do this. So I think I know it sounds like super corporate, right? But dude, this is all biblical.
It is.
Right? And
it is.
I've on some of the content that I've been posting, people are like, oh, this is too corporate. I'm like, bro, okay, go ahead, burn yourself out, burn your entire ministry out, like, get people frustrated, get people mad.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's not going to help anybody. And then you see in scripture, man, they're able to focus on studying the word, preaching, and doing all this stuff. Like, it's such a new movement. Why get caught up? And organization, again, helps the church go beyond. And so that's like, that's what it is for me.
In order to go beyond, we have to be organized.
Yeah.
There has to be some processes. There has to be some systems. I've been in churches that are very unorganized. And it's not to knock them. They love God. They're doing their best. But I would always say, like, if we just were a little bit more organized. And I think people get organization mixed up with that they have to be a larger church to be organized. Or they have to have some sort of finances. It's not entirely true, right?
No, not at all. I don't think so. Like I said, bro, there's so many like free apps out there that I use. Like our business, Ultra as a business, is just starting out. I've had like a few clients, church clients and non-church clients have done like some trademarks, some website design and stuff like that. And it's great. It's cool. But we're not like a multi-million-dollar thing yet. Right. So I got to leverage the resources that I have. And there's a ton of free stuff out there that you could get. If people don't know, like Google offers like free training and like discounts on all of their website, all of their like stuff for nonprofits. So if you have your 501c3, you could just literally go on there and get all your free stuff. Wow. So sometimes it's not even about like resources. It's about being resourceful. And these guys can like go on there and find as many free things as they can so they could get organized. It's not always about the money.
Or
it's not about the money.
Yeah, it's not about the money. I mean, you should make that your shirt. Ultra. It's not about the money. It's about organization. You don't have to pay me for that one, dude. You put that on your website. It's fine, man. But I think people get mixed up. Like they think they have to have a lot of people or even a lot of talent.
Yeah.
To be organized. It's funny because we've been in churches where, you know, you find a guy that maybe in the corporate world nobody would accept him, and then he's like some, you know, he comes to church and he was some ex-gang member, whatever, and maybe in the world like nobody's gonna trust him, and you realize like this guy's like super organized, super smart, perfect position to do this in, and I think like the church. You know, we talked about COVID and doing the online thing, and my pastor said it. Pastor Adam said it a couple of weeks ago. He goes like, the church gives us a place to serve, and that's why the gathering and coming together is so important. And having a church is important to come together in order to serve. Yeah, I think people get, like you said, burned out. You know, when it's unorganized and all that. But we need a place to serve. You know, you can serve in your home, but there's somewhere going to church and being able to serve people that you don't know, people you know, and just being able to serve that community and that church and that body. I think a lot of times, like we kind of don't want or want that organization. Maybe it is too much work. Maybe we think it costs money. But if we're serving God, then shouldn't we always put our best foot forward?
Yeah.
That's always been my thing. Like, you have a place to serve. Let's get it organized and let's do our best, because it's not for ourselves. It's for God. You know, it's for God. It's for bringing people in. With that said, do you think people look more now at the organization of a church more than ever?
I don't think not yet.
Not yet.
I know that I feel like there's a big wave of church consulting on like people who've made it, and maybe what's called like the silver wave, people like the retirement, like the boomers like moving on. And so I think you have a lot of successful pastors who are saying, you know what, stepping away from like a lead position and being like a senior, but I'm also now stepping into like a position where I can have more free time to help other works, right? There's a number of churches. There's this one guy, I forgot his name and the name of his church, but he has his website called break200.com. And like, so he has his church is just thriving in like the South. And like, he created this website, which I think is totally worth it. Check it out, break200.com. No affiliate, I'm not getting much for that. I think it's like $200 a year, and you get access to their Facebook group. And it's literally just joining, getting those other voices around you that can help you see like, what are you using for this? What are you doing for this? How did you leverage this? And he has videos on videos on videos where you could just like watch and like have your mind like blown about like what someone who's broken the 200 limit, which I think most churches are below
200.
And again, it's not, we know that's not about numbers, but it like, I think the bigger that you are, the more you can do.
Right.
And it's not always about like, I think people go into like their whole tirades about
you get
big
more
churches and stuff.
resources.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you can do it and you can do it well.
Right.
But like, I think all of those people, man, those guys are so equipped, and I think there's this massive wave of consultants. I don't think though that like organization, like if you're talking about like change management, or even Kaizen, process improvement, I don't think there's anybody just specifically out there talking about that particular thing yet. Like,
but do you think like I'm new to the church, I come in the church, do you think I'm thinking about, are these people organized?
No, but I think they could feel it.
Okay. Yeah.
They feel it.
Right.
Do you have signs telling me where the restroom is? Or do I have to ask someone randomly, I gotta go, dude. Like,
right.
Where's the restroom? And like, you're sweating. Or like something weird. Like, it's just so like people.
Where's the kid? Where do the kids go?
Kids?
Yeah. Do you guys have childcare?
One time I remember going, and like, there was nobody there at the front. And I'm like, I have my kids. Do you have no, like, sometimes people forget how difficult it is to have like young kids. My kids have zero chill. Like, dude, they're always screaming, crying. Dude, I'm like sweating, dude. And I'm like, where's the teacher? Like, I gotta put the kid in here. And I don't think people realize for a first time visitor, like how, okay, if you're already dealing with shame of like sin and you're just like messed up, and on top of that, now you have like this social, pressure and anxiety. I'm going to a new place.
Yeah.
And things aren't like, you can feel the disorganization.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
They might not care about it, or, like, how organized are you, but they're going to feel it.
Yeah.
So
it's a plus. If you're organized and I'm new and I can kind of feel like, oh, this place has it together.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel. Okay. On the flip side of that, I've been to churches that have been super organized. Like, they have systems. They have process. It can almost be a little robotic.
Sure.
Right? It can almost be like, okay, like they have the person that comes up to you and says, hello, and welcome. And can you fill out this card? And you're like, oh, okay, you're filling out the card.
Yeah.
And they have a good system. Now, it wasn't a huge church. It was a small church, very organized, very well put together. Audio visual was nice, lights, everything was cool. Monitors working good start. Everything was on point to the T, ended at a perfect time.
Nice.
Everything was good. Can you have all those things and still have some issues?
I think so. I mean, it's always about iteration. I don't think you're ever going to like nail down like a perfect church, even with like processes and stuff. But I think when I think about volunteers and stuff, like leadership is never going to be perfect. But I think if you continue to invest in your people, let's just say volunteers, as an example, like onboarding new people, valuing your current volunteers, and then like continuing to develop them. Maybe they're not going to be a pastor, and that might look like not like making anyone feel less than if they're not like going the route of like, oh, I've got to be a pastor like everybody else or whatever. But like, even it's just someone simple, like in giving them, hearing them, listening to them, investing into them. I feel like it's going to be a constant, like you build and you build and you build
a personal relationship.
Yeah.
So that's what I was getting at too, because I was saying you can have all the perfect programs, processes. You know, kids have the number on them. You know, you get a number. You can show that number when you come, and we'll give you the right child and all that good stuff, right? All the stuff you need. But still have a problem. And the problem to me is not that personal connection. Like there's. Do you focus on that too, that where it has to be like the relational? Like you have the system, but you don't have the relational. They kind of have to. It has to go together, because I think the relational will always outlast the system. Yeah. Right. What do you think?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. I think what I would bring up is like to measure if you have some data, some metrics. So let's say you say that like we had 200 people show up to the church today. Easter Sunday. Next month, we only have 100. So what happened? What's the problem?
Right.
Then you look at, so if you have those numbers to tell you, there's something wrong with our people coming in, our visitors, and they're not staying. Let's look at the process. Let's iterate. Let's try this.
Right.
Again, do it again. Get a feedback loop. Let's get some input. What did this person do? What did these people do? How are other people dealing with retention? And I feel like it's always comes back to like being able to stay on like this path of organization, the discipline of organization. And I think it literally just comes down to humility on being like organization and leveraging the power of it comes down to humility 100% on both ends.
What do you mean by that?
So one of the things that I would love, I'm trying to figure out how to share it online on my page, is the story of Naaman, right? Naaman, he's like a warrior, lead, captain, or whatever. I don't know the exact scripture, but he has leprosy, right?
Yep.
He's gonna die. His life is falling apart.
Go wash.
But how did that happen?
He met.
There was a slave girl.
Yes.
A Jewish slave girl says, "Hey,
why don't you go do it?
Why don't you go talk to the prophet? That guy will hook you up." What does that take? He's
high.
He's the commander in chief, a man. Like, and this is, I don't think anybody can even like really know the difference between that and having a slave. Like that doesn't exist today.
Yeah.
But I can imagine the difference in the separation.
Yeah, more than an employee owner.
Dude,
it was
I own you. I could literally kill you if I wanted to,
right.
And no one's going to do anything.
And I always picture her saying it like matter of factly. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care who you are. You can go see him. He'll take care of you.
I honestly, personally, I feel like it might have been on the others. I feel like I don't know. The way I envision it is,
I just felt like she knew. Like she just knows, and I think that's what kind of threw him off. Like you're telling me?
Yeah. Who are you?
Because I think you have to have some sort of sense. This is my take.
Yeah.
I think that like she had to have some sort of sense of like she just knew, and when you just know something, you're just like, no, I know without a shadow of a doubt if you do this.
Yeah.
But I think him like being who he was just kind of like. I
think this is where I run into problems, because I think the way I envision the way she is talking to him is more of like, hey, you're my master. I'm a godly person. I care about you. I'm not telling you just so I could say, I got you. Like, got one on you.
I wouldn't say like
that.
No,
I'm not saying that you're saying, but I'm saying I don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
And I 100%, I struggle with this. Not necessarily that I'm trying to get one up on someone and telling them like how smart I am over you or whatever. But sometimes I get frustrated with like leadership that just refuses to change. And so
it's tough.
For me, when I say humility, I think it's on both parts. Humility from the person that needs to change, and then and from the person that is trying to bring change. Okay. And I think that's like where a lot of people have a lot of problems. It's like you only expect that person to have humility.
Speaking.
Yeah, versus young guys or whoever that wants the church to change and having respect for just like your fellow person. respect what they've invested in, respect how they've built it so far.
Right.
And I'm trying to do my best. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf, bro. Because I would get frustrated in LA County, bro. Like people would literally. So I got hired twice as a manager there. Oh, I don't know if I should say this, but essentially, someone somewhere up the chain decided no. I got interviewed. I went through like 4 different interviews. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. Project management experience. Let's go. Like, great. Someone up the top just decided, no.
Wow.
And so I've been in the place where I've like worked with things that are just like, I'm going to decide based off of a whim because this is how we've always done it. And that flips me, bro. Like that makes me so mad. I don't know. And so even with that, like, I'm just trying to put myself in, I know it's like bad theology. Imagine yourself being in the shoes in the Bible. Like, I know that's bad theology and people are going to, rock you for that. But like, I was saying like, dude, what a great attitude. You're literally a slave. I would have been like, dude, I know you're going to die. I hope you die. So that's the flesh part of it where I'm just thinking like, where I see these organizations, I see these ministries where they're just like, dude, if you don't change something, you're going to fall apart just like Naaman. Right. So it was humility on both sides, but it's not humility with the girl. Humility with the lieutenant who says, bro, like if he would have told you, and he spoke up, and again, someone else beneath him kind of give him instruction, giving him guidance, and then the prophet not even coming out to like talk to him. Right. Like, I don't have the time for you, bro. You're less than you're less than worthy of my time.
He's really being humbled now.
Now,
right?
It comes down to
slave, finally get enough gusto to go, and then the prophet doesn't come out.
That's it. And so I think it comes down to humility. That's the first step before change, like before you can start looking at organization, because it's really admitting that I don't have the answers to this.
Or I'm not good at this.
Yeah. Or we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are going to go there. Like, I don't know, Connect Group, right? Like, sometimes I think that it's like too much. It's like, I remember people saying like, oh, I want to own people's nights. I'm like, bro, like internally, I'm like, dude, I don't, that is like this is like worst language, bro. Like who do you think you are? And I've seen people where it's like every Friday, no break for you. Like it's just every single Friday. And if you miss, they might not verbalize it, but like there's this like culture that's been built that like, if you miss, then it's almost like a superstition type of thing. Like you're going to go to hell, or like you're not.
It's weird.
Yeah, dude. It's just, it can get weird. I'm not saying all churches do that, but I feel like it can get weird. Right. And it's like admitting that this doesn't work. Yeah. That takes what? Humility. Yeah. And hearing someone else that's thriving, and like you're balancing the commitment to developing your people and valuing the people that are doing the developing. Like I think in that book, The Blessed Church, it's crazy. I know they have more resources, but in that book, he says that most of the discipleship, hands-on discipleship, happens in their Connect group, so they pay for childcare. Dude, that's insane. Yeah. And so it's like, but is that common? Is that something that someone's going to look at that and say, hey, we can go to another level with our Connect groups by investing into that?
But like you said, they probably seen some success in there. Well, how can we invest to continue the success? Yeah. Well, some people say they're not coming because they don't have childcare and it's rough, and they bring their kids and there's nowhere to leave them and they're disrupting, so they don't come. Yeah. Okay, so can we solve that problem?
Yeah, exactly.
Our church did that. We did the marriage class, and Pastor Adam was like, "Hey, I don't want nobody to not be able to come because they have kids. We'll cover the childcare. Awesome. Tell them we have childcare." Okay, cool. A couple kids come. Two kids. They pay a lady to come and watch them for an hour and a half.
Which is what?
Yeah, it's $25 or something like that.
But that tells me, let's say if I'm going, bro, they actually care. Right.
And that's the biggest thing to me. Like, you can have the systems and everything, but you still need that human connectivity, the relational thing, because your programs are only good as they got to kind of work together. I mean, that's my thinking. Like, those two things, like, you can have the best systems in order, and that'll keep people. But I think you have to have the relationship. And for example, I was in this church for a little bit. It was a local church. I wanted to go to a local church and be a part. And so I go. I loved it. Organized, great preaching, great work. Everything was great. Cool. I just felt after 4 months of being there, everybody, they had asked me a bunch of times, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you serve? Can you be a greeter today? Can you do this? But not one time did anybody say, hey, would you like to get a cup of coffee?
It's what are you doing? Not how are you doing?
Yes. So hey, can you get can you serve this week, Dave? How you doing, brother? Good. How are you? I'm doing great, brother. God bless you. God's moving. Da, 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 da. And I'm like,
checked it off.
I
followed up.
Exactly. So I was kind of like, and when we left there, I didn't leave on bad terms, but I sat down with the pastor and I talked to him and I said, I was trying to be nice. Sure. And I was saying like, hey, you have a great church. The culture is a little bit different than what I'm used to, and I don't think it's a good fit for us. He didn't understand. He was a young pastor.
Sure.
So I'm being nice, trying to explain to him. And then I get into the, I said, look, I think there's some blinders here. And I think you guys have a good process and system, and everybody's super nice. But I think the relational part is what you're missing here.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I don't agree with that. And I said, okay. And he goes, you should have joined us. Yeah. So he's a little bit, and I expected that. I was way older than him. Great young preacher.
Yeah.
Great young church. But there was a learning process, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay. And then I didn't want to push it because I don't want to hurt his feelings. And I said, hey man, great church. Keep going. God bless. And he pushed the issue on, hey, like, well, what was it? Was it theology? I said, no, there's a couple things that but nothing. There was no, nothing that was gonna, no deal breaker, And then he's like, "Well, the worship? No, worship's great. Everything's great. Great people. Well, what was it?" And I said, "The relation."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Wow, you should have joined a small group." And I said, well, you only had one small group. I explained to you that was the day we record for the podcast. It was kind of, that was the only one really we can join. The other ones were like theme oriented. Dave Ramsey one, and, singles one, women one, prayer group. And there was one that I was like, yeah, this one would fit, but we record on that day. So, he's like, well, you should have joined one. And I said, let me ask you a question. And he said, yeah. And I go, great organization on the groups. You get the word out. But if I ask you this question, just answer me this question. Do you believe that the small group leader should reach out to the new person, or the new person should reach out to the small group leader?
Yeah.
And he says, well, both. And I said, I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
And I go, that's the relational part that I'm talking about. Because if I'm new, it's already hard for me coming into a church.
Yeah.
It's going to be 10 times harder for me to reach out to somebody and ask them, can I go to your home?
Yeah.
Now it's really weird, right? It's one thing to go to a public church, you know what I mean? It's like you're already feeling little, but it's public. Anybody can come here. We can leave at any time. I don't, if I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't have to. But if you go to somebody's home, there's no escaping that stuff. You can't just get up and walk out and not say goodbye.
Yeah.
So I said, that's the part that I think you're missing.
Yeah.
I believe it's the small group's leader's responsibility to reach out to the new person. And I go, nobody here reached out to me. And I go, so I'm a seasoned believer. I don't take offense to that.
Yeah.
But if I'm a new person coming into your church, it would be hard.
Yeah.
And so I hope, you know what I mean? I hope that, he prayed for me. I don't know if it was real. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. But we talked and I hope I helped them.
Yeah.
And I hope he was receptive to that, because I felt like there was a little bit of blinders in the relational part.
I forgot who said it. I know it's my father-in-law says it a lot, but I forgot who he's quoting, that like success can be your greatest enemy. Right? It's like, oh, we built this so far, so it's like great, and people can wear that on the badge, and like honor is due where honor is deserved, but like sometimes that can kind of be like your reason that like holds you back, because it's like that might have worked in that first season, but if you're not willing to like, again, be humble to accept what can help you go to the next level or to grow into another season, another capacity, like you're not going to get there. Yeah, it reminds me of like I was just thinking about this community thing recently and about Connect Group, how like people can feel alone even in a crowd. And I know that in the Bible, like community is big, right? Like especially the New Testament, everybody had everything in common. But then, like I started thinking, like there's a lot of times where, quote unquote, community was kind of like not good.
Yeah.
Like okay, even the one we just talked about, the issue with the widows, that issue happened in community,
Right.
and it took a intentional response to deal with those things. When they didn't believe the girl Rhoda, they wrote her off. Oh, you're crazy. There's no way Peter's at the door. That's his ghost. Like you're in community and like you're not willing to like open doors for people.
Well, Paul's writing to all these communities, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time, this is what you guys need again. This is what we need to be doing. You once did this.
Yeah.
Now you got to get back to that. I mean, it's constantly like,
Yeah.
I think as humans, we need to constantly be reminded.
Yeah.
Like you said, we've got to constantly try to, I guess, evolve somehow.
Yeah. I just think when it comes down to Connect Group, there needs to be an intentional like design behind that group, not just like you need community. Well, it's like, well, what about community? Like, what exactly am I going to get out of it?
Right.
Oh, you need community. Well, like, dude, that's such a buzzword, and sometimes I feel like it can kind of be empty
Yeah.
if you're not like intentional about like what exactly
That's a good word.
is that?
Intentional.
Yeah, like, are you giving me?
Yeah.
And then I think it kind of boils down to kind of like the idea of like an obligatory thing. Like if you're a part of this, you just have to go.
Right.
And I know there's like the debate between like being a consumer Christian and being a contributor Christian. If you love God, like of course you need a place to serve. I get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like sometimes I think like why like podcasts, online content is so like drawing to people is that you're not asking people or making people feel guilty for not showing up, or like you're not
Right.
telling them like doing this and tuning into content and listening to this is part of your faith. And if you don't listen to this consistently, man, I don't know, man. Like
It's so funny because like there's people that listen to the podcast all the time and they'll tell me like, and they almost think they're hurting my feelings. I really didn't dig that one. And I'm like, cool.
yeah, great.
It's not for you. I get it. I like Joe Rogan, but
Yeah.
every podcast I don't listen to because sometimes I just,
Yeah.
and I think we have a hard time doing that sometimes. Like,
Right. Like, so I don't know. Sometimes I feel like there's this like balance of encouraging people to do something that going to church, serving, all of that is great. Consistency is great. But then like, I just wonder sometimes, is it like, who's serving who? Are they serving the system, or is the system serving the people? And sometimes I feel like I always make jokes about it. It's like milking cows. Like, yeah, we want you here, but just so I could literally just milk you for everything you're worth.
Right.
All your time, so we can have the crowd. And so, like, I think when people say community, they're really talking about just a crowd. Because, man, I don't know. So, I'm not saying everybody.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying that, okay, if it happened in the Bible, and even in these crowds are just kind of like, you just see they're just like unaware, and it's almost like they don't care. They're just literally about themselves. If that happened then, does it happen now in community?
right.
So I just feeling like, yeah, like it's got to be intentional when you're designing that stuff. The people that you're having, there was this one guy, Omar T on Instagram, TikTok. He says using organization, like on one of his examples in his videos recently, he said to design your systems like a training video for your volunteers, make those as like streamlined, automated as possible, leverage organization so that when you do see them, it's all about like one-on-one.
Right.
It's all about that. Dude, the time that I do have to talk to you, I'm not talking about, did you do this, did you do that, did you do that? It's about me and you. I want to really just check in on you, right? Like, or hey, talk to me. What's going on?
Right.
And so it's like we use community, but like, what is like the next step? Like, how are you using that to really connect to the person and not just like drawing a crowd?
Or are you using community as the buzzword?
Yeah.
But you don't really have a community beyond. What are you going to do today? You know, are you going to set up for us? Or can you help us here?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, that's not really community. Then it turns into like Very good. Very good. Very good. Came out the blue over there.
Let's go, dude.
For some reason, I think this one's getting Cam right here in the heart, man. He's like over there nodding his head. Like,
again, I'm not anti-serving. I'm not anti-church.
I
100%.
I know.
I'm just saying, I feel like there's another, like...
Okay, I got something on that. I talked to your pastor about this.
Okay.
I'm blessed because we're friends. We have some good conversations.
Awesome. Pastor Omar.
Yes,
Pastor Omar Lopez, Reach Paramount, Reach Network,
yes,
the president.
Yes, the
awesome.
president
Yeah.
of the Reach Network. I have some connections out there.
Awesome.
So he calls, checks in on me every time. And I asked some questions. So we got into this community thing and where it's not a service. And he said, he goes, did you go? I went to the Friday night of the conference that you guys had. And he said, did you notice something that Friday night? I go, I did. I already know where you're going with this. And he goes, he not only brought up the new church plants that he was starting, but he brought up the ministries that they were starting. Unheard of. Like he was saying, this person is going to be youth pastor at this church.
Yeah.
And this person is going to start this new ministry over here. Now, this is like, I don't know how many hundreds of people you guys had there, but it was huge.
It's like 1,000 almost.
In the past, it's just the pastor that gets the I would say the glory. I don't mean that in a bad way, but gets the hand claps. Hey man, this guy is going here and this guy's doing this and blah blah blah. But I noticed that he was like, so and so is going to be the new youth pastor. He's taking over that position.
Yeah.
And this person's taking over the position here, and this person's going to be here. And they were, I mean, and it's not to put them down. They weren't like these. They weren't pastoring. Mm-hmm. They were kind of like good ministries that they were starting. But he gave honor to those people.
Yeah.
For serving, and I think I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I thought that it honored those people, and it showed other people like, hey, it's just we're not. That's when it's really speaking about community, right?
Yeah. Because
you're not just honoring the big time people,
sure.
You know, but you're saying, hey, what you do is important.
Oh yeah.
What you do is important, and we're going to honor wherever you serve in whatever capacity. And so, I thought like, man, that, and I asked him about that, and I said, well, how did you get there? It takes time.
Yeah.
We develop that, and then it starts to grow, and then the leaders, that's where they train their people, and it just keeps going out and out like that. And
definitely.
And that's how we built that. I think a lot of churches think like, hey, let me call Marcel, and this is going to happen overnight. Mm-hmm. Just give me the process. Give me your charts. Give me everything, and that's it. It takes time, right?
Yeah.
It takes time to develop those things.
So about Reach Paramount and the Reach Network, huge steps towards honor. It's like not only an aspirational like value, but it's one that they live out. And of course, like I think just recently, Pastor Vanessa Briseño from, oh my gosh,
San Pedro.
I was gonna say Puerto Rico. That she just got her a marriage family therapist licensing, and they honored her.
I'm gonna have her on.
Great, bro. Great.
I'm gonna have her
it's
on.
Gonna be awesome, man. And they honored her, right? And it's just like no one's asking for that stuff,
right?
You know, I think that's okay if you have to ask for that. You're like, you've done wrong. I think it was aspirational. I think we still got a ways to go, but man, you see it.
Yeah.
You see the honor. What they say is up, down, and all around. 360 honor. Yeah. So I think it's all there. And when you think about organization or process improvement, it's really it's humility so you can get to honor. Because like if I'm resistant to hearing like what's bothering you as a volunteer, because I'm going to lose face to admit that I'm wrong, I really don't honor what you're doing, because I'm unwilling to change, and I have the power to make whatever change and authorize this person and do whatever change, invest into this. And if I don't do that, I'm like literally dishonoring what you're working in. But then I'm going to still require you show up, good attitude, don't talk back, don't let that stew up. And then where does that lead us? You know, that's going to lead people to, hey, I'm going to go
frustration,
find, some silver shores where I can really be welcomed.
Good leaders always empower others.
Big time.
They have a good way of empowering others and allowing that, right? Letting their their pride, or I want the glory, or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Like, I want the credit, you know?
I forgot the name of the king in the Bible, but it's the guy. He's like a young king. He's like ultra smart. See what I did that. He's ultra smart. And like, he built, I think in the Bible says that he built like these gates or whatever, and they had like these arrow shooters or whatever. He put like some crazy mechanics, and this guy's intelligent like crazy. But then like, it almost gets to his head. And like, instead of like letting the Levites and the priests do the priestly duties, he thinks, hey, I could do this too. And he goes in there and he does the priest, and they're like, dude, stop. Like, you shouldn't be doing this. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it. And then he ends up getting leprosy, and his whole life falls apart. And it's like, dude, let people do what they're called to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just empower them. And I think there's people that feel like, oh man, like, I don't know. I really don't know what's in the mind of people who do that. But for the people who capture that, it's like, their win is my win. And even more, their win is God's win.
Right.
Right? If they function and they grow in their purpose, whether if it's like reflective of me, it'll eventually always be a reflection of you.
It always is.
But then they feel like they flourish.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to be blessed by that. And you're not going to have to obligate them. You're not going to have to guilt trip them.
They want to do it.
Yeah, dude.
They want to do a good job.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've had a great boss for the last 15 years. It empowers me, lets me make wrong decisions sometimes, gives me good advice sometimes. We agree to disagree sometimes, but through that whole process, he's guided me and helped me become a good leader. And he's a great leader. And there's been times when I've told him, that was a bad move. You know, like, I don't agree with that move. And he's listened.
Yeah.
He may not always agree with it.
Sure.
But we've been able to talk like that. And I love that guy because he's empowered me to be a leader, and I've learned a lot and how to deal with things. I think that's like one of the biggest things. It's just empowering people that are underneath you to flourish, to be great at what they do.
Yeah.
And then they become good leaders.
Yeah.
And then you did your job, right? Because they're always going to say, hey, I'm always going to remember my boss the last 15 years. When he retires in a few years, I'm going to be like, he was the best boss that I could ask for. And in the end, he gets the glory because I'm always going to give him the props. You know what I mean? I mean, he's not looking for that, but ultimately it's like, and then now I have a guy underneath me.
Right.
And I always go back and I'm thinking, okay, what did Andy do in this when I used to do this? How did Andy treat me when I have to be patient? You know, just be cool, man. Let him make his decisions. Trust him, you know, so.
I think something you said about it taking time, I think with organization, like, and smaller churches, like, I don't think you want to wait until you get to like 200 to start trying to organize.
Right.
Because I feel like at that point, man, you probably already at a boiling point with your team. Like, where it's like, dude, at any moment, like, this thing could fall apart because it's just like too big and people are going to get frustrated. People are just, So I think, man, I always think it's good to start small and start iterating, getting whatever organization practices you can. Man, start doing vision. Like, so I do this one thing called the House of Purpose. So we work out your vision, your mission, and your values. And like, where do you want to go as a church or as a leader of this church, pastor? What is God calling you to do?
That's huge. And
I find like, man, if you don't do it at the beginning, like, it might be too late to do that, like, halfway in. I'm not saying it is too late, but I find that, like, okay, you're going to start getting other people, and now it's going to be more difficult to turn that ship to say, hey, we're actually a church planting church. Oh, we're actually like a Pentecostal church, and that's what I want to dig into. What if now you just got a bunch of like anti-Pentecostal, anti-Armenian, or people who are Reformed? It's like, maybe now you're causing like this weird thing. It's like, ooh, it's weird. Because
you didn't, it's like, you got to set the tone early.
The expectations.
Once again, the expectations. Hey, this is who we are.
Yeah.
Here's our values. Here's what we believe.
Yeah.
Here's how we do things. And it makes it so much easier because it's not just coming like from a pastor or a leader, but it's like on the wall or in that booklet that you give out or whatever, or on the website, right? And it means so much. I mean, I've checked out churches before and I've said, values, let me see what they stand for. Mm-hmm. You know, let me see what they believe. Let me see, you know, and it's huge. People look out for that stuff.
And honestly,
it's organized.
That is so like, again, I feel like it goes back to like the amount of like leveraging that work of setting that up so that you don't have to deal with these headaches later. Right. That you got this guy who's like completely two different visions, and he only exists there because you never said what your vision was. Right? If you would have told that ahead of time and you read that, he'd be like, oh, this is my church. I don't belong here.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, we're leaving on good terms. Now, because you didn't do that in the beginning, you have like entire church split, your church hurt, and it's
That's
a big old mess.
huge. Yeah.
Bro, take some time, develop a house of purpose. I found like 9 times out of 10 when I talk to people about that. And like I've done a couple of those like jobs for some churches and developing that. And it's like the pastor has like literally a vision, like a literal vision that God puts on him for their city or for their ministry. 9 times out of 10, right? And if they haven't, it's like, okay, let's help you get there. Let's pray, let's fast, let's do whatever so that you know what you want to do and where God is calling you to function in this ministry. To me, it makes me think of like when Paul encountered Jesus, and immediately, like literally the first thing he said, I'm going to tell you how much you're going to have to suffer for me. So his path of ministry is suffering. Great. Like what a great ministry, right? Suffering. And then what does he say? The Holy Spirit keeps speaking to me that I'm going to go to Rome and I'm going to be put in chains and yada, yada. So literally that's his path. And I'm going to go to the Gentiles, literally his path. So if someone told him, hey, let's do your ministry, but let's go this way. It's like, dude, that's not what we're about.
Right.
Same thing with Peter. He's like, I'm going to the Jews. So setting that out early on, dude, takes a little bit of time. And it's actually fun to really like dream about that. And sometimes, man, I've had some conversations with people. Sometimes it's so sad because it's like, they're like, they'll say that, but almost like reservedly. They'll say it and they're like, but I don't know, man. And it's like, dude, it's so sad. I just wonder, man, we've been beaten down so badly that like, you can't even dream.
Right.
You know?
It's I think what you do is great, man. I think anybody out there that's listening, I mean, that has a church or a ministry needs to hit you up, needs to see how they can be. That's for all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, you quoted a lot of authors, a lot of websites. You're gathering stuff and getting stuff. And I think that's one of our biggest things that we don't do. And I think if we did that and got those advisors, we'd get better and just put some good stuff in our life. Hey, man, I appreciate you coming out, man.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
That was fun.
Honestly, it was a blessing, dude. I wasn't fishing to get on the show, dude.
Yeah, right. Dude. You slid me that little $50, and I was like, you know what? I
was looking
use
for
that.
like a carousel I was going to design or whatever, but I really appreciate it, bro.
We got one more thing before you leave, and it's what me and Cam called the Furious Five.
Okay.
So you watch the podcast. This is the Street Gospel Furious 5. I got 5 questions for you.
All right.
Number 1, Street Gospel Furious 5.
Let's go.
What does the perfect church look like?
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
Good answer. It's in heaven.
Yeah.
We'll find out one of these days. Question number 2. Finish this sentence. You're not hardcore unless...
You've been to a no warning show.
Oh, man, this guy.
That's a bar right there, though.
You're not hardcore unless you live hardcore.
Oh, okay. Who's that?
Jack Black, man.
Oh, okay.
School of Rock. Show it to your kids. They're of age now. You can watch that. All right. Question number 3. Who inspires you the most?
Who? What?
What?
I don't know. It sounded like...
What?
Who inspires me the most?
Yes.
Man. I would have to say probably, man, Mr. Beast at the moment.
Who's that?
Mr. Beast?
Who's that? Wait, what?
Mr. Beast is like a like this crazy young YouTuber. It
Really?
has like 100.
I know he knows.
How many? Does he have 100 million subscribers? Dude, it's ridiculous.
100 million subscribers.
On the content side, I guess he's like he's the guy that like everybody wants to be. He's huge, bro.
100 million.
It's great.
Oh,
and
yeah.
dude, he just like gives money away. He doesn't care about the money.
So he's kind of like Jimmy Darts and those type of guys?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, you know who Jimmy Darts? Oh, you don't know who Jimmy Darts is? I'll see you guys on
Like a 90s reference?
No. I'm an 80s kid, man. We were talking about this last night. 80s is the best time to grow up. I don't give a damn. Okay, you look up Jimmy Darts and I'll look up Mr. Beast.
Okay,
All right,
okay.
cool. All right, question number 4. If you had to listen to one of these preachers preach for the rest of your life, who would you pick? Joel Osteen or Kenneth Copeland?
Oh, God. Definitely. Wait, is Kenneth Copeland the COVID-19 guy?
Yes.
I don't know, man. Maybe Kenneth Copeland so I can make memes, but most likely Joel Osteen.
Yeah, I mean, Kenneth Copeland would be more content.
Yeah, dude, it'd be entertaining.
Yeah, entertaining. All right, last question. Street Gospel Furious 5. If you had one wish for the church, what would it be? The whole body.
Man. I guess humility, man.
Humility.
For each other and for the Lord, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. It's fun.
Thanks for coming out. All right, man. Hey, anything you want to shout out?
And all behold,
I want to give a shout out to my wife, beautiful wife, for supporting me and holding it down. Family. I want to shout out my brother. Hopefully his movies take off and get really, really big. It becomes the next rock.
I'm going to have to get him in here.
Shout out Mike, Diga, the Foo Squad, Reach Paramount, Reach Network, all those guys.
And where can they find you at, man?
Oh, if you guys want, you can check out ultra.go on Instagram or the website ultrago at ultrago.org.
Got it, man.
That's it, bro.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
We out.